My name is Jameer Alsop, and today I'm going to be talking about African American resistance and how it is not something that just happens occasionally, but something that has always been a core part of black culture and identity. In this presentation, I'll go over what resistance means, who black people are resistant against, the different types of resistance, the consequences people have faced, why resistance matters, and then I'll end with a conclusion. Resistance is often thought of as protest or rebellion, but for black Americans, it has taken many different forms throughout history. When people think of resistance, they usually imagine large protests or major movements, but in reality, resistance can also be quiet and in everyday actions. For example, during slavery, resistance could be as small as slowing down work, secretly learning how to read, or preserving cultural traditions. Even though these actions were dangerous and often punished, they still did. These small acts were powerful because they changed a system that was designed to control every part of the person's life. From surviving slavery to fighting for civil rights and expressing identity through culture, resistance has always been present. It is not just something people do in certain moments, it has become a part of black culture and identity over time. Because of this, resistance is not about reacting to oppression, but also about maintaining identity, dignity, and strength. Black people have resisted throughout history for several important reasons. First, oppression and justice. Systems like slavery, segregation, and systematic racism created conditions where resistance was absolutely necessary. Second, the fight for freedom and rights. When basic human and political rights are denied, resistance becomes a response to unfair treatment. For example, during the civil rights movement, many black Americans protested because they were denied the right to vote or receive equal treatment under the law. Third, survival. Resistance wasn't always about big movements, it was often about protecting your life, your family, and your community. During slavery, survival could mean secretly keeping family traditions alive or finding ways to avoid punishment. Another reason is preserving identity and culture. Even in the worst conditions, black people are resisted by holding on to traditions, values, and self worth. And finally, demanding change. Resistance pushes society to become more fair, more equal, and more just. Today, we still see resistance in movements that speak out against inequality in policing, education, and economic resistance. There are several different types of resistance, and they don't all look the same. Physical resistance includes things like revolts, fighting back, and escaping slavery. For example, some enslaved people participated in uprisings or ran away despite the risks. Political resistance includes protesting, voting, activism, and pushing for new laws. An example would be the civil rights movement, where people organized marches and demanded legal change. Cultural resistance involves music, fashion, hairstyles, and language to express identity and challenge stereotypes. For example, styles like natural hair or certain types of music can be a way of embracing identity and resisting pressure to conform. And finally, everyday resistance. This includes smaller actions like getting an education, succeeding despite obstacles, and challenging negative stereotypes in daily life. Even something like being the first in your family to graduate or refusing to accept unfair treatment can be a form of resistance. All these forms of resistance are important and they all contribute and change in different ways. The consequences of resistance. Resisting injustice has always come with serious consequences. Many people face physical punishment, including being beaten, tortured, or even killed. Lynching was also used as a form of terror to punish and intimidate black people. There were also legal consequences. Activists were often arrested, jailed, and targeted by the government. For example, Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her seat on a segregated bus. Some people even lost their lives. Important leaders were assassinated or died while fighting for equality, including Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. There were also social and economic risks. People could lose their jobs, opportunities, and personal safety just for speaking out. For example, Colin Kaepernick faced backlash and career consequences after protesting during the national anthem. These consequences show how risky resistance can be, but also how powerful it is. Resistance is often misunderstood. It is sometimes viewed as aggressive, dangerous, or negative, even when it is meant to bring attention to injustice. When people think about resistance, they often judge how it looks instead of focusing on why it is happening. For example, peaceful protests may be ignored while other forms of resistance are criticized more harshly. The media also plays a big role in shaping how resistance is seen, sometimes focusing more on conflict rather than the message behind it. In many cases, black resistance is judged more harshly than others, which can shift attention away from the real issues, which is inequality and injustice. Because of this misunderstanding, resistance is sometimes seen as the problem instead of the conditions that caused it in the first place. Resistance matters because it has led to real and lasting change throughout history. Many of the rights people have today, such as voting rights and equal access to public spaces, came from people who were willing to resist unfair systems. Resistance challenges injustice by exposing problems that might otherwise be ignored. It forces society to recognize inequality and take action. It also plays an important role in shaping democracy, helping make it more inclusive, and equal over time. Resistance does not just create and change laws, it changes how people think and understand issues. It inspires future generations to continue fighting for equality and not accept injustice. And most importantly, resistance is not just action, it has become a long lasting part of black culture and identity, showing strength, resilience, and in conclusion, resistance has always been a central part of the black experience. It has taken many different forms, from physical to political resistance to cultural and everyday actions. Even when people face serious consequences, resistance never stopped. It has played a major role in creating change, expanding rights, and improving democracy. And even today, resistance is still necessary as people continue to fight for equality and justice. Understanding resistance helps us understand history, culture, and ongoing fight for fairness in society. Thank you.